Hi, Amanda. Thank you very much for joining us and having this conversation about your crowdfunding campaign. Your crowdfunding campaign ended only a few months ago. You ran it in November 2020, and I think it's going to be super interesting to hear how that was amid the whole world situation going on. But if you want to just kind of introduce yourself, your business, and of course, obviously, your crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Amanda. I'm one of the co-founders of Pantee. My sister and I started the business last year, and Pantee is the world's first underwear brand made from dead stock t-shirts. So unused, unsold, destined for waste t-shirts. So I guess we decided to launch on Kickstarter. We expected it to be a lot earlier on in the year, but many various things happened. Not just the, I guess, world pandemic, but just the time that it takes to do these things and the learnings that we needed to do before we could really launch, and we were in a better position. So we did launch, I think it was the 4th of November, and we ran it for just under a month. I think it finished on like the 22nd. And yeah, it's been not really even nearly 2 months, I guess, since we launched it, and we are probably about a week away from delivering on all of the orders that we made throughout the Kickstarter campaign. So we're kind of like at the very end of the full campaign, because I see the campaign like running until we've delivered our orders from everyone.
Yeah, exactly. When we do campaigns, we have like the pre-campaign or the planning, like you said, takes longer, the campaign, and then the follow-up as well.
Yeah.
So just for all the listeners, you raised £11,083 on the Kickstarter from 164 backers.
Mm-hmm.
Your target was 10,000.
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you hit that 10,000 mark?
So yeah, this is a really interesting question, because we've got asked this a lot, and I had friends kind of messaging me all the time when we got closer and closer. And I think my sister, actually, my co-founder sister, could give a very different answer. In my head, like, I think I always just want to do better. So I actually have struggled with, I guess, celebrating achievements a lot, because I think, okay, great, but I'm kind of already, when I got to about halfway there, kind of estimating, well, we're halfway there within this amount of time, we hopefully will meet it. So what's my new goal? So although our Kickstarter goal was that, my personal goal was higher. So I think I had to realign my own expectations, I think. So that was a big learning for me doing this, because originally, talking about targets, with Kickstarter, obviously, if you don't raise the amount that your target is, you don't get anything. I wanted our target to be a lot higher, but my sister was like, 10k is better. So thank you, Katie, for making sure that we did that. But yeah, I mean, I think once I had a moment to like recognize, it was really good. It was very, very special to have kind of got there, and actually taking a step back from kind of all the day-to-day stuff that you have to do and really looking at kind of what you're achieving. It was amazing that so many people wanted to kind of buy a set of panties when they had never seen the brand, not seen anyone wear the brand other than the photographs that we had in our campaign. It's great. We built quite a good, strong community on Instagram beforehand, but really there was people from across the world that bought panties. So yeah, it was super exciting.
And then just on that, you say that obviously your sister's going to have a very different answer, and obviously she's not here right now. Is she someone that, you know, has the goal, hits the goal, and is happy with the goal, or is she similar to you, as in like, we need to go one step further?
Yeah, absolutely. But she's definitely a lot better at like making space to kind of recognize the moment and giving us, like, she helps me remind myself that a lot, which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, I think, yeah, I think Katie will be a lot more like, yeah, no, it was great. Or I'm like, oh no, on to the next thing, come on, let's do this. So yeah, we're a good balance there. I don't know.
Do you see that across the whole business?
No, I think we really have, like, at the beginning, we're kind of figuring everything out. Like, I mean, still very much at the beginning in so many ways, but I think we're really starting to kind of come into our own in our own like parts of the business, and there's a lot more like areas now where Katie's so heavily involved, I don't know as much what's going on, and vice versa. So I think it's just depends on what area now, really. But yeah,
that makes sense. And so then obviously it's a super cool concept in terms of being more sustainable, cutting down waste, all of those things. What even led you to think, like, let's make underwear out of t-shirts?
Yeah, so short answer is now I actually have to keep it a short answer, so I'm kind of screwing myself over that one. I literally one night, having read Dana Thomas's Fashionopolis and speaking to a lot of friends who do like selling on Depop and are into circular fashion, sustainable fashion, I ended up late at night Googling what can you do with an old t-shirt, and found quite a few videos of women upcycling with their sewing machines t-shirts or boyfriend husband t-shirts into underwear. And there were lots of comments, people very thrifty, being like, yeah, they're so comfortable, like cotton undies. I don't know how to sew, so I really wanted to try this for myself, but didn't have the skills or the patience to learn. So I was just like, I love this idea, and having read a lot about like the inner workings of the fashion industry and actually the amount of waste of clothing before even like it basically never is even sold, potentially never worn before. I was very interested in thinking, could this work on a larger scale? So instead of post, I guess, consumer, when a t-shirt's a bit worn out that you don't want to wear it as a t-shirt anymore, or like a band t-shirt that you never would wear other than like to bed or something, I was thinking, what about all of these t-shirts that are brand new and potentially are going to end up as waste? Like, can't you make them into something else? So that's where it all kind of started, and then I went a bit crazy. Exploring it, it's all I kind of thought about, and I got a lot of no's, but I hired someone on People Per Hour, and I said, I literally met pre-COVID in this coffee shop, and I was like, okay, so here's 3 t-shirts and here's my 3 favorite pairs of pants and a couple of can you make this into this? And actually before that, I'd been up at my mum's in North Yorkshire, in a place called Knaresborough, and I had gone to, I knew nothing about fashion at the time, so I'd gone to kind of like dry cleaners who also do take trousers up. I remember specifically going into this one shop on the high street, and this man, like older man, was there, and I was like, okay, so here's my pairs of pants, here's a t-shirt, can you make this? And he didn't understand. He literally thought I had completely lost the plot. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but when I explained it to my sister afterwards, she was like, yeah, it's a bit weird. So, and I know this is again, these were my favorite pairs of pants because I wanted to make them in that style, so they were like my pants. They weren't brand new, they were clean, but the whole thing was great. So I hired someone, and when they came back, I was like, okay, put them on. The fit wasn't there necessarily, but they were comfortable, and I was like, well, it works, it's just the same material. And then from then on, there was like, I mean, I don't even know where to start. So much to do. It's genuinely not as easy as it sounds. You've got to make sure you get specifically the right type of t-shirt that can work for underwear. Where do you get those t-shirts from? What point in the supply chain do you get them from? Who will do it? Like, all of these different things was the next challenge. And actually that is what really delayed our Kickstarter, is because I didn't want to launch a Kickstarter until I had answered all of these really, really big questions. So yeah, that's the short version of how it all came to be.
I love the fact that that man from that dry cleaners is probably telling this story as well to his family and friends, being like, this woman came in one day.
I know. Well, I think, I don't know, maybe as well, like a perhaps like a generational thing as well, like with the uprise and kind of sustainable fashion, and people trying, like, doing this stuff more. I think, I don't know whether, like, oh god, another like Gen Z or millennial. Like,
I think it's a really good idea though that you used People Per Hour to get that initial kind of prototype done, because I feel a lot of people would have been like, I can't sew, I don't know what to do, kind of maybe just give up, or they would go a bit too far into it, manufacture a lot more. But using that, I've never thought to use People Per Hour for kind of like that angle, which I think is really clever.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I've used People Per Hour a couple of times for like web stuff, and I didn't even know if I would find anyone for this. And like I said, I have never worked in fashion before in my life. I appreciate and enjoy fashion. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a fashionista, but I literally, my knowledge was zero, and there's so much to learn, so much, like it's just an absolute minefield. And to like any woman or man who works in fashion, it's just like I mean they just know so much. The people that I've met who are from industry have taught me so much, and I think they've been so valuable to be around. And my previous experience, I ran a social media agency for about 5 years, and it's just, I mean, it's completely different. I've worked with fashion brands before, and I would always be like, why don't you have more time for social media and be doing this and that? And now I completely understand how to vent to all of my clients. But yeah, people I recommend it, especially if you want to try something. Having, like you say, I'm glad I didn't go straight to sampling or trying to do something like that, which is hugely expensive, because it just gave me, I guess, like it was enough for me to sit on then for a while to figure out a lot of the other stuff before I kind of jumped in head first, which I do have a habit of doing.
It's good that you recognize that.
Trying to.
So obviously, like, I guess last year was just a crazy learning year for you, like learning all about the fashion industry, learning all about the supply chain, learning all about how to run that type of business, but then equally learning how to crowdfund and make that all work well. What do you think were the hardest things up to the launch date in terms of preparing for your crowdfunding campaign from the crowdfunding angle?
So I guess timeline wise as well, I actually got these t-shirts done on People Per Hour back in September 2019. So, I mean, I guess September this year will be 2 years since that all happened. So just from a timescale, like if you think that September 2019, it wasn't until November 2020 that we kind of launched our Kickstarter. It was a long road. So the hardest things, I really struggled at the beginning to know where to start with our Kickstarter, in all honesty. There's so much to do. You've got to think about your video, and then it's not just a case of doing a video. It's like, what is your campaign? What is your angle? Like, what is your why in all of this? Like, there's a lot of brand building to do there. And then the way that I felt Kickstarter is, it's maybe slightly different an audience to what our Instagram audience were at the time. So it's making something that can work kind of for both, and you're not changing anything there. So that was all difficult. We had the added level of layer of complexity that my sister actually lives in Vancouver. So we were unable to be together for any of the video planning sessions, never mind filming the video itself. So that was difficult, especially with time zone changes and things. So there was a lot of difficulty around that, but I think there were so many times we just wanted to be like, right, let's just book someone, book a videographer, let's get it started. But we just didn't have enough of an understanding of what our brand story was to start writing the script and to get to that point, because we were so kind of premature, I guess, in the early developments of our product. So there was a lot that we didn't know quite how to say that could change. So we didn't want to go do a video and be saying certain things and then that to change. And that did happen a lot. A lot. So yeah, probably just the whole planning really and time scale of it.
Yeah, that definitely, I've seen that happen before. One question I do have about your time zones is, in my first year of business at Crowdfund 360, I went to LA for 3 weeks, and then I had another campaign manager working out of France. And for that 3-week period, everyone thought we were like a really big company because we were replying to emails, you know, pretty much at the 24 hours a day mark because of the time zone differences. Obviously, in order to actually catch up, it was a bit of a pain, but it was so funny that, you know, I ended up having to tell people like, no, we're just 2 people. Did you see any of that as well because of the time zones and the kind of global audience that you were bringing in?
We have seen a few times people have said, oh, you guys are super responsive on social media. I think yeah, I mean, this has been in a slightly different way. One of the things that Katie and I have always said, probably to make ourselves feel a lot better about not never really being able to work in the same room together, is that we can be kind of always on. So when we launched our Kickstarter, and obviously you're getting your pledges through, she would wake up to me like messaging her every time with like a bell emoji being like ding ding and and then I would wake up to the same thing. So that was always really nice. And I felt like sometimes I'd be scared to go to sleep because I was like, what's going to happen overnight? Especially with it being international. But Katie then would be awake until, so really day to day I speak to Katie first thing when I wake up, because we're not on the phone but exchange a couple of messages because she's going to bed, and then she will wake up when it's about 4 p.m. UK time, well 3:30, sometimes 3 depends what we've got on, but we'll speak to each other from kind of then on. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean. You can kind of approach things from all sides.
Yeah, and then so obviously you had a global audience, you used a globally recognized platform. Did you also, did you market globally? Did you just kind of focus on the UK and Canada? What was your strategy when it came to that?
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the biggest learnings we've had. So we grew and are still growing a really lovely engaged community on social media. We wanted to do ads ourselves at first because we are very much on a startup budget, and we started to get contacted by a lot of like Kickstarter agencies as soon as we launched. And within the first, I think just a few days before we launched our Kickstarter, we decided to go ahead with an agency. And I'd say, I'm sure this doesn't happen for everyone, but for us it was one of our biggest mistakes. And we just had, I mean, anyone who's worked with an ad agency before, you have to be so careful because you need to have like a lot more visibility. You need to have a better testing period, and all of these things we didn't have. We just kind of rushed into it. So our audience was mainly UK. We have had some international audience. We had a few in America, quite a few in Canada. Obviously my sister's out there, so the influence can reach from her as well. Dubai, parts of Europe. But yeah, it was a much more UK centric campaign, definitely. And I think that's probably reflective of our actual Instagram audience. So really our Kickstarter campaign was fully organic because we actually didn't end up running ads. So yeah, UK mainly.
Yeah, I think what you say about the ads is really important because, again, a lot of people come to me, the campaign's live, they want to run ads and all of those things. But, even a lot of agencies won't do it because it's only a 4 or 5 week campaign, because you need that testing period beforehand to really figure out what's going to work. You don't want to be figuring that out, obviously, on like the last day of the campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the biggest lesson for me for this, and I know the same for Katie, is it's so easy in areas of a business that you're learning to go, I'm going to hire an expert for that. I don't need to spend my energy learning. It's complicated and I've got other things that I need to be doing, and you can prioritize them. But and I know that you will sometimes get to a stage where you do have to do that and delegate work. But I think in the early stages for me, I really want to try and learn and be across everything, because I think even just having that basic understanding is so important. So we have literally last week started working with a woman to teach us Facebook ads, essentially. So she runs this great program where you can either hire her to do everything, or what she advises is to work with her, and you go onto Zoom and you'll screen share and she'll take control of your screen and go through everything. We have really long calls, like 3-4 hour calls, where she's teaching us everything. And within 2 sessions, I've learned so much already, and the importance of like, it needs time to learn your audience and how you do all these different things. You need to really have X amount of audience before it can actually learn from it. And I did not know any of that before, so I was just like, okay, ads, we'll just switch them on which isn't how it works at all. So you can just end up wasting like a lot of money doing it that way. And you kind of think, when I was thinking about campaign planning, I'm like, okay, we'll do grow audience to this on email, and you kind of start to work out the percentages that you might get back from that as pledges, and I definitely wrote ads off as something that we could just switch on, and it didn't work like that at all.
Yeah, and I mean, even taking this lady's training and everything, if you get to the point where at some point in the future you do hire an ad agency, like, you're very much more aware of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how.
Absolutely.
Which then obviously makes you in a better position to choose a good agency that's going to meet all of your needs.
Absolutely. And I think I know from being my social media agency, we specialize in organic, but we did have this same problem. It's a client relations thing sometimes, where the client doesn't want to know, they just want to outsource social. They don't really want to understand it for whatever reason, and I understand that. but then you get 1 month in, everything's going great. 2 months, yeah. 3 months, it's like, I don't understand, like, what I'm paying this money, what am I getting back? And you start to get into these difficult conversations of like, well, this is how it works, this is how long it can take, this is where, like, you know, your investment's going. And I think that was very much, I ended up falling into that same trap, but on the other side, where you're kind of like, oh, definitely a lesson learned. But
I mean, it's all a learning curve, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So if we look at the learning curve, like, what type of advice would you give if another, you know, sustainable fashion brand wants to go and crowdfund? And we obviously see a lot of sustainable fashion brands crowdfunding at the moment. Like, what are your kind of like top 2 pieces of advice for them?
Yeah, have a really, really strong why. I think that's just the biggest thing I found. Even kind of, as if I put my consumer hat on, I want to know, like, why I'm going to buy from you, why you're different. Because I think it's so easy to kind of be very similar or not distinguishable enough from others. So I'd say that's definitely my first one. And my second one is, don't rush, give yourself the time and build your audience as much as you can. Don't focus just on social media, make sure that's email too, because they are just as important, if not more, probably more. So yeah, that would be my 2 bits of advice, really.
Yeah, they're really good bits of advice. And then my last question before we wrap this up is like, what's next? What are the plans? Like you said, you'll be delivering your products from your Kickstarter in February, which is in the next couple of weeks. Like, what do you have planned for your business after that?
Yes, so absolutely, our sets, literally all of our Kickstarter orders, to anyone who's listening and bought Pantee perhaps, arrived yesterday. So I will be fulfilling all of those next week. We're just waiting for the rest of our packaging to come, which is really exciting. Got a lot of orders to pack, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone thinks and just finally delivering on this, and slightly ahead of time as well. But what's next? Well, I mean, try to not take it too quickly, try to not do too much at once, but we've got some exciting things coming. We're currently developing our sizing range, which was one of our promises in our Kickstarter. We launched with at small, medium, large, and we wanted to develop either side of that as soon as we could. So we're doing that at the moment. We're about to go into fittings for those. We've got colours coming. And we're looking at developing some new products too. So yeah, lots of exciting things happening.
And are they going to be sold on your website through another Kickstarter or through shops or online portals?
So our website is now live. We are open for pre-order, and we'll obviously be delivering on our products really soon. We've got another drop of product coming for our kind of website stock early February. So from then on, we will have stock, unless that stock sells out quickly. We're available for pre-order, which I know is a funny concept kind of with underwear as well, because I feel like underwear is something that you kind of buy and you want fairly soon, but we're just amazed at how many people have wanted to do that and are willing to wait. So thank you to everybody that's been one of those.
That's cool. So I'll link to the website, your Instagram, and obviously I'll put up your crowdfunding page as well, so people can go have a look at it. Anywhere else that you would appreciate a link to at the bottom of the video?
No, I think that's all good. Thank you. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Sure.
Perfect. Obviously, just send me an email. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come and chat about your crowdfunding campaign. I think that a lot of people at the start of their business journey, whatever industry, will really benefit from the fact about take your time. And I think that, you know, the sustainable fashion industry will really see your campaign as an inspiration that it can be done, as an inspiration that it can be done organically on a tighter budget, and that, you know, however odd and strange your idea is, and however many people you freak out by taking your underwear and your t-shirt, like, it works. So thank you very much.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun. And it's actually, I feel, the first time I've spoken about Kickstarter, which was my main word of 2020 for really a good month or so. So Katie and I were just saying the other day, like, do you remember we did a Kickstarter campaign? And it was less than 2 months ago, but it's like all ancient history now. So yeah, this has been really fun. Thank you for having me on.